Yeah, I think it's becoming incredibly difficult to actually tell who is interacting with advertising. If anybody's really gone through Google Analytics and specifically the location reporting in Google Analytics, you're probably well aware of this. I live in Haddon Heights, New Jersey. It picks me up as Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Philadelphia, um, Medford, New Jersey, and none of those are actually the city I live in. So it's a really, really difficult undertaking to be able to say, all right, I'm reaching the people that I want to be reaching.
Mhm.
And with Google Analytics specifically, we know that paid search is a fantastic channel that's going to drive clicks, but we don't necessarily always look at what is driving people to actually make that search. There was an article from Rand Fishkin a few months ago that came out, and he did a lot of deep research that 70% of traffic to a website comes from Google, but people only spend 10% of their time online on Google, which means that there's other steps in the buying process that are influencing people to then go search. And so often, in Google Analytics, we're so focused on what happens when someone actually gets to the site, but we miss how are we causing people to take action and actually go physically search because those are harder to measure. It's Google Ads is the easiest platform to measure, and that's why there's so much money that goes towards that. Just because it's easy to say, I put $100 in and got 5 clicks. That would be a pretty high CPC, but obviously some industries are higher. Whereas something like a display or connected TV ad is much more difficult to measure through something like Google Analytics.
Anything to add, anyone?
I think that Drew kind of said it best, and similar to Drew, I think I did talk about this last year when we had the same webinar, but we've gotten very spoiled with paid search and seeing that click to result attribution. And I think it has really led people to neglect tactics that have driven results for decades,
A great
from
point.
that are less measurable in the moment, but drive strong results. And when you're not thinking about that full funnel, that 90% of the time that people are not actively searching Google, you're making that budget that you are allocating to Google work so much harder than if you are supporting it with tactics that ensure people are familiar with your brand before they're at that ready to purchase stage. So really making sure that you're putting in the effort to support all those dollars that you're putting into paid search is really important. As I mentioned before, we know that that tends to be one of the highest invested tactics, and to solely rely on it really makes it work a lot harder and in turn end up more costly than it necessarily needs to be.
It's actually a really great point. I want to use that to kind of pivot a little bit. Amanda, and Noelle, I'm coming to you guys. Um, we talk often about the right mix. And last year, we really talked about at the beginning of the year, too, shifting that mindset into more of a balanced media mix, which kind of piggybacks off of what Robin was saying. I'd love for you guys to talk about what it means to have a balanced media mix, and why it's important for customers to be hit at the full journey at all stages. Who
I
wants
can
to take that
start.
one first?
Yeah, I can
Great.
start. So we know that shoppers are not transacting usually on their first touch point. And it's really important to get in front of not only in-market shoppers, but pre-market shoppers as well. So at Stream, we look at things in terms of awareness, performance, and influence and retention tactics. So awareness are those tactics that, like Robin mentioned, traditional and digital media, things that are driving that brand recognition, and then performance, which are going to drive that incremental traffic to your website and hopefully result in sales. And those are things like paid search and SEO. And then finally, influence and retention tactics. So those are going to be things like retargeting, whether it's display or video, and your addressable media as well. So leveraging that first party data that Sarah talked about and hitting those consumers, whether it's with display or online radio or even connected TV as well. I will say in a perfect world, you would want that even split between all three tactics, but we know that every company has different selling seasons and different inflection points in their business. So there are going to be times when some of those pieces of the puzzle are going to have more emphasis than the others.
Well put. Anything to add?
Yeah, and I think we often see with our clients, and even like new clients we take on, a lot of emphasis is put on the performance section of the buyer's journey. As Robin mentioned, that's where you're seeing those conversions come through, and that's where you're really able to measure things. But it's also super important to look at that awareness part of the buyer's journey. Also, retention is going to be super important as you're building up your performance and getting more people to your site. And we're really working to get more people to your site, more people really engaging with you. We want to make sure we're also looking at them and remarketing them, looking at other ways that we should really be driving that awareness, but also following them as they already hit your site and following them throughout, and just staying top of mind, staying in front of them, and making sure that that full picture of the marketing mix is really working towards you and utilizing your budget fully.
Amanda Pyne?
Yeah, just to add to all of that, I think Noelle and Amanda had great points there. And to take that a step further, I would say really just focusing on creating stage specific content. So developing content that's going to align with each stage of that buyer journey. So, blog posts or video ads for awareness. If you have your retargeting, that messaging is going to speak a little bit differently than when you had a more general awareness type campaign. So just keeping that in mind and not just having some universal, messaging across all of your platforms, and really segmenting it and targeting it based on where they are at in the funnel. And then additionally, I would say, I know I hear this like quite often, is that using that paid search mindset, we get very comfortable with just measuring conversions and seeing if that was a successful campaign or not. So being able to track your engagement metrics by funnel stage. So really taking the time to sit down and set those KPIs for each of the stages that you're, implementing efforts for. So if you have, CTV, you're going to be optimizing for impressions. If you have paid search, that likely will be conversions and traffic. So understanding what those KPIs are so you can really gauge what's effective and how you need to then balance your media mix based off of that.
I think just bringing it back to first party data again, like when you own your audience, it's so much easier to understand every single piece of that marketing funnel of performance, retention, awareness, because then through that, we can understand how our audiences are engaging with our websites, how long they're taking to purchase, depending on what industry it is. Majority of our clients are in automotive. So, right now we're seeing longer buying timelines because, a lot of people seem to be hesitant on price and interest rates, and the election is causing a little bit of a slowdown. So just making sure that we're understanding our audience, is we're staying top of mind so that when they're out there searching, they know where to go when it's time to purchase.
And I think one thing that gets missed a lot is everyone kind of thinks that it's a very linear buying journey of, I saw a TV ad, I went and searched on Google, and then I got a retargeting ad, and now I'm ready to buy. And so often it's such a convoluted process, and that's completely unique to each individual, where they're actually just searching for a specific thing. They go to Google, they click on a site, then they get retargeted, then they kind of aren't really actively shopping anymore for that item. And then they get a CTV and they're like, oh yeah, I did want to buy that thing. So it's really important, I think, when we talk about that balanced media mix, is ensuring that we're showing up where users are actually viewing content or engaging with ads. So when they are ready to make a decision, we're there and we're able to kind of move them along through that funnel at their own stage.